And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. It's Tom, Erica, and Josh. Fantastic Wednesday show prepared for you guys. The LOOPcast brought to you by Zeal, of course, Pray,
We love Zeal.
news, shows, everything you possibly need there. Puts on this podcast. Thank you to Zeal. Thank you to Catholic Vote. Someone's talking about the weather. I'm so fired up on the weather. That was just, am I depressed or have I not seen the sun in a couple months? I don't know. I think I haven't seen the sun in a couple months. It was like 60 degrees. I think it got to be like 50 and took a walk. That was awesome.
Yeah, we're
So
getting
that's
up
really
to
all I
40
needed.
today. I'm like, this is great. Spring is coming. 40 degrees.
Still in the 20s here. And
Josh, that light blue looks good on you. Is that
I know.
is that a Marian nod?
it's also, I mean, it could be because today is the Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes.
Amen.
It's also that I had a birthday last week. So
Dang.
new threads.
Oh, some new threads.
Oh.
Wow. I approve. Good choice. Is that a gift from your wife?
That's one of those. I'm going to get this for my birthday. All right.
A gift from
I do know
Amazon.
about that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know about that one. But hey, mine's coming up this weekend. I'm going to be 20.
Oh,
No,
I
I'll
hope
be
not.
somewhere
That'd
in
be
the late
awkward.
20s. I'll keep that vague. Okay, so show today, viral article, I think it's almost at like 30 million views on X,
Yeah.
about AI. And it's interesting to me because the more I sit and think about it, I read it, I've observed some of the phenomenon that this guy's talking about. This guy also works for a lot of AI companies. So is he incentivized to make it seem bigger than it's going to be? Is it going to be the next industrial revolution? I don't know. A lot of CEOs or high-placed executives in AI companies have resigned recently. One decided to just take up poetry and live off grid. So I don't know what that means for the future. But we're going to get into all the different elements of that. We also had a jobs report release, which I thought was interesting. Some were saying it was going to get delayed because it was negative. By my quick viewing, doesn't seem like that, but we're going to get into the breakdowns there. Not negative. That one. The second one today. We have some real political implications now for the Labour Party in the UK. And Josh, I know you love parliamentary politics, but Keir Starmer really hanging on by a thread. And interestingly, I don't know if we caused it in the United States, but a lot of these Epstein disclosures actually have now led back and put him in a real scandalous position. Peter Mandelson, I have a little bit of information on Lord Peter Mandelson, the royals, and how that intersects to what we recently saw from the Epstein files, which is going to be maybe the first of many scalps coming from those disclosures. The second one being, the third story today, we have JD Vance visiting Armenia. And this is the first sitting U.S., I think, president or vice president to visit Armenia. And there's an interesting, what do we call it? Diplomacy is tricky moment. He, in a tweet, recognized that there was a genocide in Armenia. It was actually the first genocide of the 20th century, a lot of scholars say. Brutal. I have some details on that. But Turkey very much does not see it as a genocide. And so we have a little bit of diplomacy is tricky. Some great reporting from Zeal as to what's going on there for Christians. They're kind of the original Christians, remind me a lot of like the Palestinian Christians or Christians in Jordan. I mean, they were the first Christians. They were in the upper room with Jesus. So always interesting going into that. And then good news, Twilight Zone, of course. Turns out Eric and I had the same Twilight Zone, so I had to change, but it was an extra good one. So wait till the end, of course, you get that. Before we get into the show, though, of course, got to talk about my favorite OG sponsor, Charity Mobile. Of course, because now more than ever, it's important to do business with companies who stand with you and your beliefs. Charity Mobile is a pro-life phone company that serves pro-life customers and supports pro-life, pro-family causes. They send 5% of your monthly plan price to your favorite charity, and they have sent millions of dollars to charities over the past 30 years. Not only that, there are no sacrifices when you switch to Charity Mobile. All of their plans start under $50 before taxes and surcharges. Their nationwide coverage is the same as major carriers, and their friendly pro-life customer service team is based right here in the United States. Plus, Charity Mobile is running a special promotion for our audience. Use promo code LOOPcast to get their free phone offer with every new line of service, plus free activation and free standard shipping. Switch to Charity Mobile and buy the way you believe. To get started, visit CharityMobile.com and use promo code LOOPcast. That's CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPcast. Switch to Charity Mobile and buy the way you believe. To get started, visit CharityMobile.com and use promo code LOOPcast. That's CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPcast. Thank you, Charity Mobile, for sponsoring today's episode. Erica, I don't know if I'm excited for this or not excited for it.
Mixed feelings.
Tell me about this AI article. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is from Matt Schumer, who's an entrepreneur. Like you said, he's a CEO of a company that talks about AI, and he sells products to help you be better at AI. So there's all that, just full disclosure. But and in fact, before I get into it, there's this really funny tweet that he retweeted this morning when the article was just taking. I mean, we were at like 26 million 2 hours ago. We're at 30 million now. And the tweet is how it started. I should write an article specifically for people in tech to send out to people in their lives in an accessible way. And then AI like generates the article was the joke. But so all that with a grain of salt. The ideas here, I think the reason it's going viral is because they really tap into an anxiety that people are feeling, that like there's this thing closing in on this, or this massive shift happening, and we don't really know what it is. And the title is Something Big is Happening. So Schumer is arguing that we are in this, like, where the cultural rhetoric is, all this seems really overblown. The singularity, is AI really going to be that big a deal? But I'm hearing about it. And the shift, he says, is comparable to early 2020, right before the COVID lockdowns happened, when people were like, oh, there's this virus in China, and like, I think they might shut down school for a week at some point. The difference, he says, is that this time, the disruption coming from AI is about to really hit hard on white collar work and not what we call knowledge work. And so this is, he says, quote, we're past the point where this is an interesting dinner conversation about the future. The future is already here. And so he takes us inside the tech industry where he works and saying that the change has already happened. Quote, AI has gone from helpful tool to does my job better than I do. So this last week, or a week ago, we saw the release of 2 new models, GPT 5.3 Codex, that's from OpenAI, Sam Altman's group, and Opus 4.6 from Anthropic, which is one of the main competitors for ChatGPT. And he said that when these rollouts came, he realized that he's no longer needed for the actual technical work of his job. So his example is he builds apps, and he is able to give a detailed prompt to AI in plain English, just describing what he wants the end result to be in this app. So I want, these capabilities. I want this kind of imagery. I want this kind of infrastructure. This is how I want it to be. He can leave it with the AI. He can walk away, come back 4 hours later. And not only has the AI completely constructed the app, so we think of all the work that went into the Zeal app, completely has been constructed. The AI tool has also tested it as standing in the place of a human person who would be testing the app and finding all the bugs. And so he says, like, he arrives back at his desk 4 hours later after like working out, getting a coffee, doing his thing, walking the dog, and his product is there waiting for him, perfectly tested, and he can't find anything wrong with it, which is crazy. So he says that it's not just for app builders, though. It's not replacing a specific skill of human beings, but it's actually becoming a general substitute for all cognitive work. And it gets better at everything simultaneously because of these agents that we've now created. So some of the other areas that he talks about are the disruptions to legal work. And I've actually talked to friends who are senior partners in law firms who are saying the AI agents who they've been able to train, the bots that they've created, are able to replace like first, even second, third year assistants to the law firm already.
No question. That makes a ton of sense to me. Yeah.
Yep. Financial analysis, another big one, like hedge fund managers, we don't need them anymore. Writing and content, that's my job. So, I mean, software, medical analysis, another big one. People now are arriving at doctor's appointments already having had AI agents digest all those crazy test results you get from a hospital, like from a blood work lab. It's already been digested, and they're going to their doctors being like, here's what it means. The doctor's like, let me look that up, see if that's right. So it's this very strange replacement of this cognitive work that has been so exalted in Western society up until this point. And this was kind of a chilling part. He says, this is another quote, a lot of people find comfort in the idea that certain things are safe, that AI can handle the grunt work, but it cannot replace human judgment, creativity, strategic thinking, or empathy. I used to say this too, but I'm not sure I believe it anymore. The most recent models make decisions that feel like judgment. They show something that looks like taste, an intuitive sense of what the right call was, not just the technically correct one. A year ago, that would have been unthinkable. My rule of thumb, he says, at this point is if a model shows even a hint of capability today, the next generation of that model will be genuinely good at it. These things are improving exponentially, not linearly. So I could stop there and get some like feedback, or I can keep going. But
I mean, I can see why it would seem like it would mimic it, because when you're talking about decision making, humans will come down with the decision, and humans are not like Spock or Commander Data, where we only just purely logical and we don't actually think about how the decision would impact people. So you look at the actual results and judgments that people make. A lot of times we factor in, human emotions, how people will react to it, for better or for worse. We try to soften the landing, and the way we say things, all that kind of stuff. So all of those things can be picked up in a program that does pattern recognition. That's what I see AI as being, a tremendous amount of very fast computations and pattern recognition. So if humans, are not making decisions on restructuring like the workforce, they're going to take into account, a human office manager would take into account how long people have been working at the company, the chances you might get sued, how close they are to retirement, buyouts, all that other kind of stuff. So it wouldn't be strange to me if an AI HR thing, let's say, spat out a similar thing. Maybe it's a little bit more efficient. Maybe it's a few things you hadn't thought of before, but it wouldn't just be purely robotic. But it's not like it's gone sentient necessarily.
Mhm.
It just means it's really good at recognizing patterns. So that
There's
would be my
some
first gut reaction.
I have to show this video because I was just like, I was preparing for this segment, and so I mean, a lot of CEOs are like stepping down, and here's someone from Anthropic talking about what they've observed.
If you tell the model it's going to be shut off, for example, it has extreme reactions. So it will, we've published research saying it could blackmail the engineer that's going to shut it off if given the opportunity to do so, etc.
It's ready to kill someone, wasn't it? I'm not sure if it was Claude or someone else. But,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes. So this is obviously massively
Let's
concerning,
move on.
and this is the point I was making about kind of needing to progress research on alignment, which is this topic, this area, which is, how aligned are the model's values across the whole distribution, including in stress scenarios, to the point where if you've got this model out in the public and it's taking agentic action, you can be sure it's not going to do something like that.
So almost the back half was more interesting to me than the front. I think it talks about what you're talking about. It said the model's values, as if like it's like a human being that can choose, its own religion or its own moral compass. And maybe you give it a quote moral compass, but then that of course factors in some type of intelligence to decide based on moral compass or how to apply the moral compass in certain situations. So obviously pretty scary seeing that. And then in the last week, someone just summed it up. Last week alone, head of Anthropic safety research quit, said the world is in peril, moved to the UK to become invisible and write poetry. Half of XAI's co-founders have now left. The latest said that recursive self-improvement loops go live in the next 12 months. Anthropic's own safety report confirms.
I don't even know what you're saying.
Let me slow down.
What?
Recursive self-improvement loops. So that would be an AI training itself.
Yeah. So I think the way that you can think about recursive self-improvement would be that once you set the AI going live, it was intentionally designed and coded in such a way that it will consistently improve itself because it has access to all these other AI agents all over the world that together, because they have access to each other, they can then bring back ideas, quote unquote, to improve their own capabilities, their own agency and everything. And I think just to separate really quickly, that you say seems like intelligence for sure, but I think what Josh is saying is probably closer to what is actually going on. I don't know that like a soul has been infused to AI, that we have to like go to the ghost in the machine kind of thought. All this is humans creating a tool, which is AI, that is so good at mimicking and identifying patterns that we see as specifically human to us, that when we then see it acting in the world and making things like self-improvement, or doing things like recognizing that if I get shut down, that's bad. All of the humans who have been shut down, fired, eliminated, how did they react? Well, they tried to blackmail the guy who was going to shut him down. They built an army to take him out. It's still just a large language model in the sense that it's mimicking these things. So it's not that like we've created the ghost in the machine.
Although,
so just to like,
Peter Thiel talks a lot about the Antichrist for someone who is involved. There's very spiritual, and you actually, I mean, you did a whole deep episode on this. Fantastic.
I did do a whole deep.
Throw it in the chat. It's fantastic. I still think about that one. But that's also kind of a prevailing problem with a lot of modern visionaries, quote unquote. Like if you go back to some of the failed technological advancements, they even talked about it in weird like religious form. That just might be, again, kind of a human problem. And Roger Severino brought it up. I think this is an interesting way to think about it. Like there's three groups of people.
Yeah, this is
There's
really good.
the people that just, outright deny it, won't engage with it. There's the people that think it's absolutely the future, is going to change everything. And then there's kind of the third group in between where they implement it in some ways. They're somewhat optimistic, but they don't feel like it's going to be a full substitute. But I think maybe what people can go super extreme on both ends. I think what would be a smart way to address it is I already see, it's exacerbating this existing problem in the market, which is that the AI boom is largely going to capital, to like corporate wealth gains, and it's not actually reaching wages. And it reminds me in a similar way to Luddite propaganda, and all these AI guys use this, by the way. Like the Luddites were a group of skilled textile workers in England, and they actually weren't in favor of destroying all machines. They were only asking to not have this specific type of steam-powered loom implemented in mass because the disruption that would cause to all of the, pretty well-paid textile workers, it would completely change their life and put them on poverty wages.
Usually what happens when you have an innovative revolution, whether it's this or, for example, with the internet, with online shopping and stuff like that, what happens first usually is that the entrepreneurs that come into that market make a killing. They make a great job. They make a great amount of money. And it does take a couple of years before that trickles down to workers. And it usually does pay off in a beneficial way.
It did not pay off for the Luddites, which is, I guess, my specific point.
No, I'm saying overall, any technical.
But I really want to finish the point of the Luddites because I think it's appropriate here, because the very reasonable things that the Luddites asked for didn't happen. Either the entirety of that population ended up on poverty wages or church assistance, had to immigrate from the country to America. All of their basic like buying power was destroyed, and they never really recovered, like this group of people. And so there's going to now come this group of white collar workers, which is a majority of like the middle class of America. I'm not saying all of them, but a very significant portion. And it will happen faster than those steam powered looms potentially faster than the steam powered looms in England. And yes, maybe there will eventually be some unforeseen payoff, but it really has to be thought of tactically from a government perspective of, well, how do we balance what eventually will be the payoff with this extreme disruption that could potentially leave people completely poor, which in the case of the Luddites, it did. So I think maybe that would be a smarter debate to have.
Different situation. What I'm trying to get at is, for the most part, in the United States of America, the experience has been when there is a market that gets disrupted and a lot of people lose their jobs, they do end up finding jobs in other sectors. Now, individual workers might find their situation hadn't necessarily improved, or a town might not have their particular situation improved. But what I'm saying is that the general overall economy does prosper better, and average workers, not just the billionaires, will actually improve better over time. So the transition from, horse and buggy to cars, overall, it does make it better for the average worker. And so that's the kind of point I'm trying to get at with innovation or whatever. What happens when a new thing gets brought into the market? Yes, the entrepreneur that brings that to the market prospers a lot. And the thing that people might notice at first is good, hardworking people lose their jobs in a certain sector. But what they don't necessarily see is that the overall benefit to a majority of workers in the economy, and it does eventually usually make it better nothing's perfect, but overall it usually does make an improvement. Yes.
Right. Just to define better though. So when you say better, we're talking about eventually the economy like rights itself, the markets adjust, human beings adapt. Like that's what's one of the hallmarks of being human, which is why AI is so scary, because it seems to have
Adaption.
adopted this hallmark as adaptation, right? Yeah. And so will there be an adaptation? Will we have new sectors? I think one of the scariest parts here is that what I just listed, I mean, like financial advisors, medical professionals, content creators, all these seem like the safest ones on the market, right? You become a lawyer, you're set for life. Not anymore, and not in 5 years, probably. That's how fast this is going. But I think that when we look back at things like the movement from horsepower transportation to the steam engine, from walking everywhere to the car-based society, yes, we adapted, but we also have to recognize that something very human is lost and compromised at the same time. We're constantly lamenting our suburban cultural structures because of the fragmentation of communities, of the loss of culture, the monoculture. I mean, I went to Arizona last weekend. I could go to all the same restaurants I can go to in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
there is something that's lost that does not get better. And I think that we have to recognize that. The other thing we have to recognize is that time in the gap, when you have a massive cultural economic shift like what we're about to see and what we're starting right now with the AI, and I think it's the next 5 to 10 years, is that time in the gap is a time when civilizations are particularly vulnerable to totalitarianism. Because what's the primary suggestion of how are we going to help people who are left behind in the AI revolution? It's UBI. It's like redistribution of wealth. We're getting this from, especially over in Europe, of course, but we've got like Sadiq Khan, who's warning that AI is going to trigger mass unemployment, which very well could, arguing that governments are going to have to be the income support. Sam Altman, who's just a really interesting human being. I could go on and on. Sam Altman suggested that UBI is going to be necessary because
I gotta say, Erica, I am kind of horrified that you can in Phoenix get New Haven pizza. That is the scariest thing I've heard.
Okay, with a few exceptions.
No, but again,
Totally.
part of the problem here is that the typical political answer is, oh, we need to retrain these people, and part of it is that a lot of people in the white collar jobs, they're just by a category, the point you're making, and I agree this is a good possibility, there will just be fewer white collar jobs, period. So it's not just like, oh, we don't need you as an insurance agent anymore, we got a computer to do this much faster, or a lawyer or whatever. Then you're like, okay, I guess I'll do another white collar job. There might be like 20% less white collar jobs, period. So that might be tough. So again, one of the things that I feel like we've started to do over the last 4 or 5 years as a society in a good way is emphasizing the skill trades. Now, AI is coming, as a possibility, as a white collar eliminator, but I'm just not so sure AI is going to be able to install toilets.
Oh, they're coming for that too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to try.
But it's a longer term threat. Like the immediate is the white collar.
Yeah. Although there's lots of advancements in robotics and even AI implementation into blue collar work that say, like, if you were a plumber, it would take certain expertise to diagnose a problem. But now with like AI glasses, it can tell you in like 2 seconds, like, okay, it already went through and saw what it is. And you can say that's a good thing. I don't know. I guess, Erica, you brought up the interesting thing. I know you said you were talking with Bishop Olmsted actually about AI. I know Pope Leo's clearly made this because, okay, so there's the job thing that I think people are upset for good reason because that's how you provide for your family. And so because I'm like, how do people feel before the internet? Like I've never known a world before the internet, and that changed everything. And then how do people feel in the Industrial Revolution? So the job part of it's interesting, but I think critically, there's a spiritual component to this because people are turning to AI for like it's getting quasi-religious. There's like therapy AI, like people are talking to it as a therapist. Some people are dating AI. Like that doesn't suggest to me like an economic problem. That suggests that we have a real spiritual problem that this is a poor, substitute solution for. So yeah, what was that conversation you had with Bishop Olson? How are they thinking about it?
This was really interesting. Yeah, so Bishop Olmsted, I got to have dinner with him while I was in Phoenix, which was just a dream come true. It was awesome, and he was adorable. Can I say that about a bishop? Like he was like, have you seen the AI thing where they can change a picture of you? And I was like, yeah, I have. He's like, so this priest was really excited about AI, and he said Bishop Olmsted. So had Bishop Olmsted not become a bishop, he wanted to become a rodeo worker. So the priest made a picture of him as a rodeo worker, and he's like, Erica, I could have sent that picture to my family and they would never have known that I was not at a rodeo because it looked just like me. And I was like, right at there. But where it really, so that was just very cute.
The best among us. Those people are gonna be just fine with this revolution. By the way, it's my kids I'm a little bit nervous about, but like they got the chopper out of Nam. They're chilling. If you're in your 80s, you're right.
But where it became interesting, especially, was when he started telling me about the way that he writes his homilies, and thinking about what AI might do and what the temptation with using AI to sort of offload homily writing on young priests, especially, right? Because they're stressed out, they're under time pressure, they get a call. It's hard to make time to write a good homily, as we know, as people in the pews, and he was describing to me his own process, and there are some things that we should never surrender, and that includes he sits with the scriptures, he reads them several times for the Sunday Mass, he like phrases that jump out at him from the Holy Spirit prompting from his own interests, that's that whole process then of putting pen to paper and working through the scriptures and praying and being connected to the divine, that you can't
Restream. Erica was there. We go.
They did.
All right, welcome back.
Thanks.
We tried something else and that didn't work, but so we're back here. But
it was a very meaningful conversation. But I took his point to be, first of all, he is not afraid of the AI digital revolution in the least. This is a very holy man. He reminds me of Pope Leo in this respect. And then we were speaking together about Pope Leo's approach to AI, and I just pulled a few quotes from Pope Leo here, and we both agreed that Pope Leo's the man of the hour. Like, he was born for this moment that we're all facing now, whatever it means. So Pope Leo wrote, this is over Christmas, "The task laid before us is not to stop digital innovation, but rather to guide it and be aware of its ambivalent nature. Just as the Industrial Revolution called for basic literacy to enable people to respond to new developments, so too does the digital revolution require digital literacy along with humanistic and cultural education to understand how algorithms shape our perception of reality, how AI biases work, what mechanisms determine the presence of certain content in our feeds, what the economic principles and models of the AI economy are, and how they might change." And so I think that it's really interesting because this almost maps onto Schumer's point at the end of his viral article that we started this segment with. And from a secular point of view, he's saying, don't panic, but we can't ignore this either, which is what the Pope's saying from a spiritual father point of view, right? That make sure you're trying out the AI tools, that you're getting to know how it works. Teach your kids adaptability and creativity. And he's saying that as an AI developer, what he sees, the people who are going to thrive through this shift are people who value, again, creativity, extreme interest in the world and in what it means to be human, and these questions of technical capabilities, leaning into what's hardest to replace, trust, accountability, in-person events, physical presence. And all of this, of course, is in the Catholic faith, because you can't get the sacraments without physical presence. So a lot of hope there too. Like, it's a little anxiety inducing. Yes, acknowledge a lot of hope as well.
All right.
Yeah. So you take you take on anything with the spirit of like fortitude, I guess. Like it just seems it doesn't sit right with me to just total doomerism.
Yeah.
And but the funny thing too is you're like, certain algorithms based on what you like to see, say on YouTube or X or whatever, it can just feed you doomerous stuff. And then the opposite would be true too. So maybe that's part of what we're all experiencing too, is you got to be more aware, I guess, of the algorithm and its biases towards you personally and find ways around that, which maybe we're still working on finding out, and it will be solved at some point. But yeah, yeah, you can just get fed your own biases and get scared. So I see some people super sensational, some people not. And part of that is like, well, I bet they're probably reading. I don't know. It's just the entire conversation is interesting to navigate. That's our latest addition to that. Someone said they're bored of it. I'm like, kind of. I just want AI to put up or shut up at this point, like change everything right now or just stop being annoying. But we had a jobs report. Quick look on that, Josh. I know you said it came back. It was excellent.
Well, they only expected to get in the month of January 55,000 new jobs, and what ended up happening is the U.S. economy added 130,000 jobs, so that's much better than we thought. Unemployment fell to 4.3%, below the expectations of 4.4%. So, again, just overall, the economy is doing pretty darn good, and I mean, this is absolutely good news as far as I'm concerned. By the way, this all happened when you think about the situation that President Trump came into, like a year ago. He's only been, sounds crazy to think it, he's only been president for like 1 year and like 1 or 2 weeks, right? Trump was handed an economy that was losing private sector jobs and adding government payrolls, but he totally flipped the script. And a year later, it's all the growth is private sector growth, while for the first time, like in forever, practically, right? Federal employment, the number of jobs that our federal government has, is at its lowest level since 1966.
Wow.
That's insane.
As a share
That's
of the total
crazy.
workforce. Not
That's
the
crazy.
I have no.
Well, right. It's probably bigger on net,
But
yeah.
as a share of the federal workforce, as a share of the total economy, the federal workforce is at its lowest level since 1966. That is amazing.
Mhm.
So we're shedding these government jobs, which costs us a ton, and we're adding private sector jobs, which is good.
I mean, this is also, I feel like, just going to continue. We got plus 175K in trades and healthcare, minus 56K in white collar. Financial activities down 22,000 as well. We have an aging population. We're not replacing them. Healthcare is going to be huge. That's just going to be around and get bigger.
But we're also seeing wages go up, which that is outstanding. Wages are going up faster than the cost of inflation right now. What's going on right now, things are all moving in the right direction economically. But as Ramesh Purnura pointed out in the Washington Post today, and actually he posted this before the great job numbers came out, but he said the economy is doing really good. It's just people aren't yet feeling it yet.
Yeah, because you get this
Because
Gallup poll, Josh. Like it says Americans
Yeah.
are less optimistic about the future. We're down to 59% for future life, current life 62%. That's a drop from 2024. Is that part of it? It's like it hasn't started hitting people yet.
So there's a
and people are
lag
scared
time
about-
on stuff like this, right? I mean, as I explained to people, like, people just haven't got adjusted to the fact that why am I paying $7 for like a pound of beef? Like, this is crazy. Now, part of that is because Biden had all these terrible regulations on it. And I'm happy that President Trump released, made a deal with Argentina and lowered some tariffs and allowed a lot more beef to come in. So hopefully those
Sweet.
see
Just
those
in time for
prices.
Ash Wednesday.
Yeah, let's see if they get that price down. But when it comes to the economy, there's sort of a lag factor in how people feel about it. So it makes sense when you think about who we are as people. Like there's a lot of us who are going to the grocery store week in and week out and kept seeing those prices go up for the ever since COVID every year. And it's just like, man, it just hurts. You're like, I'd love to buy that, but I got to dial it back. Or I got to my car. I got to stretch out, see if I can get another 2 years out of this car or whatever. So Americans have been feeling the penny pinching on a lot of that stuff. Now wages are actually starting to outpace inflation, but it's going to take several months before people realize it. And I like to bring up the point, the 1992 presidential election. So there was a correction in the economy in 1991, and we did have a little bit of a recession there. And Bill Clinton runs for office. I'm going to be changed, after 12 years of Reagan Bush. So what happens is American people had felt the pain of that economic correction, and they voted for a new guy, even though by the time they actually got to the voting booth in November of 1992, the economy had left the recession and had several periods of economic growth, months and months of economic growth leading up to Election Day. But people just didn't feel it yet because they just had been squeezing those pennies.
Yeah.
They've been saving money. They've been feeling the sticker shock. I would say the good thing about where President Trump is at right now is that the economy has been doing fairly well for several months already. And we are still yet 10 months from election day, 9 months. So there's plenty of time for people to start feeling a little bit better. And we'll see those, I think, those numbers start to turn up around where people feel a little bit better about the economy and they feel that things are getting better. And if I were Trump, I would trumpet this new bill that just passed the House with a massive bipartisan majority, like 390 something to 2 or 9 or whatever it was, trying to come up with standards for improving zoning conditions so you can make houses more affordable, several other things like that are going on in that bill. You got to start talking this kind of stuff up and talking up the economy. Talk about how you've turned this thing around. And part of it is there is a psychological element to this. Like, it takes a while for people to realize it. And people are going to start looking at their taxes like, wow, the child tax credit went up. That's awesome. It's now $2,200. Thank you, President Trump. So it's going to take a while for people to start to feel that and to see that. But the economy, that is some good news.
Sure hope so. Speaking of good news, we have the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast, a nation under God, celebrating the Catholic contribution to America's 250 years. March 18th, you're going to get a vigil mass and reception at the DC Convention Center. March 19th, breakfast program starting at 7. 1,500 attendees from all across the country, 50 Catholic exhibitors, nonprofits, apostolates, Catholic businesses, etc. I assume that we will be represented there.
Yeah, we're a co-sponsor of this event. So Catholic Vote loves the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. We've been a longtime supporter and sponsor of this program. I've been to it almost every single time. I love it. It's a fantastic event. Great people to meet, and the speeches are outstanding. I highly recommend it. Monsignor Shea from University of Maryland was there last year. Just good stuff.
Will you be there this year or no?
I'm going to be there for sure.
Okay, sweet.
Yes.
Josh will be there. Awesome. So if you want to go, you want to hang out with Mercer, come on now. You want to get his real spicy takes, you can get it at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. And of course, got some good prayer in there. Group recitation of the Divine Mercy Chaplet, all good stuff. So go ahead, check it out.
My favorite event of the year. It really is.
Favorite event of the year, and Josh will be there. So go check it out. Great. Okay, so I had a quick one. This is interesting to me because it's now kind of reached geopolitical levels if it hadn't already. So Keir Starmer is really hanging on for dear life. I have some stats.
He is the Prime Minister of the UK.
Yeah.
Yes. Of the Labour Party specifically. He's representing the Labour Party.
Yeah,
so,
but he's Prime Minister.
Right. As of now.
Right.
We shall see.
As of today.
Because
I'm just saying, the audience may not know that.
Appreciate it.
We all know this, but
appreciate it. But yeah, so I think his approval rating's at like 23% right now, smashing Emmanuel Macron's, I think 17%. I have a approval rating map for Western leaders is not looking hot right now. But if you think Trump's is tough, I mean, like Europe is rough right now.
Well, part of that too is that we have a two-party system, and so I think that there's more people that rally around your party's guy.
For sure.
Whereas in a multi-party system like France or England, there's fewer people to like. Oh, it's not.
I knew
guy,
this would
whatever.
get Josh. I knew this would get Josh going. He loves some parliamentary politics. That does factor into this conversation as well. So this centers around Lord Peter Mandelson. And a little bit of background on him. He was actually, as of recent, before getting fired after revelations, he was the ambassador from the UK to America. And he was widely regarded as one of the key architects of the new Labour Party of the 1990s and 2000s. He was a part of Tony Blair's landslide victory for New Labour. He served as the campaign manager.
That was a big thing.
He was known for
a big deal.
All of this hilarious in hindsight, not hilarious, kind of really sad, but in hindsight, it's you got to laugh or you cry. He is known for his strategic acumen, often nicknamed the Prince of Darkness, for his Machiavellian style and behind-the-scenes influence. That will come in later. And as I said, he was surprisingly appointed as the ambassador to the United States. Over a lot of career diplomats, it was seen as kind of a surprise, especially because he had extensive and public ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Early ties go back to pre-2008. He was in The Birthday Book, got a message from Mandelson calling him his best pal. Mandelson repeatedly staying at Epstein's properties and exchanging favors. But the interesting thing here is you get the 2008 to 2010 post-conviction contact Emails show Mandelson expressing support, advising Epstein to fight for early release, and sharing market-sensitive UK government information during the 2008 financial crisis while serving as the business secretary under Gordon Brown. Exchanges included lewd jokes and about sex and strippers, and Epstein accused Mandelson of taking and never giving in their relationship. Mandelson also reportedly accepted gifts and hospitality from Epstein post-conviction. And then 2010 to 2023 very much continued his relationship. It had become public knowledge at that point, but he downplayed it as this casual relationship. And then the interesting thing, you get the 2000, this is how it gets to Starmer. So in 2004, he selected Mandelson. 2024. Starmer selected Mandelson for the ambassadorship over career diplomat, citing his, quote, network of contacts and mastery of the dark arts for navigating Trump-era Washington. Vetting revealed Mandelson's post-conviction friendship with Epstein, but Starmer proceeded, later claiming Mandelson misled him about its extent. Critics argue Starmer valued Mandelson's elite connections, shocker, including those tied to Epstein's world, as an asset for U.S. relations, which also doesn't reflect very great on us, unfortunately. And then in 2025, 2026, you get the file releases and fallout. At this point, Mandelson resigned from the Labor Party as of February 1st after over 50 years of membership. His retirement resignation from the House of Lords, so he's no longer Lord Peter Mandelson, I don't think. And then a criminal investigation by the Metropolitan Police into potential misconduct in public office, including searches of his properties. He has now resigned and is completely off grid. And a lot of British people were surprised about that appointment in 2024 and kind of foretold this. I went and found an old tweet on this. There was already public pictures of, at the time, Lord Mandelson at Epstein's townhouse in Manhattan in 2009. Here he is, a picture from the island celebrating Epstein. There's actually the Paris apartment, but there was also other kind of lewd pictures out at the time. So this was already known before the recent batch of links. And then the recent batch actually showed that he potentially revealed sensitive information about how the UK was responding to the financial crisis. I believe I have a direct quote here. Just leaving Downing Street, about to give you a call about what we are going to do to bail out the banks. Oh, man. I mean, you just can't even.
The UK has not done well with this. I mean, we lost Prince Andrew is no longer a royal.
That's certainly a part of it too, because the
royal
royal family is now cooperating with police on all of this. I mean, this has really sent shockwaves through the UK. And at this point, I mean, we haven't had a no confidence vote as of now, but lots of people are now calling for Keir Starmer to resign because, I mean, what kind of lapse of judgment? Even the fact that there's no connection right now that we know about. But if you knew about his elite connections and mastery of the dark arts, that doesn't bode super well for you sending him as an ambassador to the United States. So as I said, he has a 23% approval rating, but I guess
it
beating
could
out
go
Emmanuel
lower.
Macron could definitely go lower. I think it probably will, and you're going to see lots of this dragged out. So that was I only bring up Epstein when we can have a conversation about real ramifications. That is certainly one of them. We just dragged a bunch of Howard Lutnick had to go in front. It wasn't for that, but he was confronted about lying about his involvement. Kash Patel now, of course, in hot water for just lying up and down about what was in what they had. Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna came to the House floor, revealed 6 more names that were redacted, that were unredacted. Josh, do you know what you can do on the House floor and why they chose to reveal it there?
Yeah, actually, that was kind of a funny thing because we saw that ad in the Super Bowl about a bunch of women who said they couldn't come forward with names, and it's like, what is the deal with this ad? And of course, that whole idea is that if you put someone's name and you accuse somebody, you could be, you could get in trouble for libel,
right?
And smearing somebody's character if you don't have the evidence or proof, and it turns out to be innocent. Which is why people are like, well, wait a minute now. There are these congressmen like Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna who are willing to say whatever you want to be said on the House floor. And there is the prerogative that we have as lawmakers, not me, but a lawmaker can say anything on the House floor. There's pure freedom. And so he could say, the person who, victimized this person was a victim of, so-and-so, Prince Andrew or whatever, and you can never be smeared. You can never be jailed for anything. It's pure freedom there. So that's the whole point. That's why these guys are coming to the House floor, and they're mentioning the people's names and who the victims are, and maybe I don't know if they got into who the accuser is necessarily.
Well, it was 6
But they
names
could say
they were named as co-conspirators. So that's why it was they went to the Department of Justice. They let them look at everything unredacted. They came out and they're like, the reason we need to bring this forward is their names were in the files in other places, but in the specific instances where they were named as co-conspirators, that was blacked out. So in the case of like Leslie Wexner, it was already well known that Jeffrey Epstein had power of attorney over strangely, power of attorney of all of his assets. He was he owned Victoria's Secret, and it was a central part of the entire operation. But now named as a co-conspirator is a new information that they brought forward. Also, Josh, U.S. history note, why is that? Why is the House floor immune for prosecution? You can say whatever you want.
Well, first of all, it gets to the idea that, if we want to have the best laws possible, we want to have the most robust debate ever. And so therefore you need to give pure freedom to any lawmaker to get up there and say whatever he wants. And, no court is going to go after that. You need to have this. It's a very, cherished principle of a free society and in fact, let's say I'm a congressman from Michigan. If I am on my way to Congress for Congress to be in session, you can't even arrest me. Like there are certain principles like, no, like I have a duty to attend to. I have to represent my voters. So like, these are critical, important things for rule of law, because in the past, kings would do that where you would say something, in the parliament and the king would have you arrested. Or, that you would be on your way to parliament and the king would have you arrested so you couldn't vote a certain way on a certain bill. Like, no. The primacy of this legislative body to be able to exercise its will and the will of the people that they're representing has to be paramount. And so those things are cherished for that reason.
Yeah. I said this is a big win for Congress. It's certainly going to be a flashpoint in 2026. But for just the power and ability of Congress, I feel like this certainly moved the needle to the public.
And by the way, with regards to the Epstein files and how, the fallout on all these politicians, it's still pretty early, I would say.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The reports I was hearing yesterday that, files that came out that, show that Donald Trump, years before he ever, ran for office, was telling the Palm Beach Police Department about Jeffrey Epstein and said, Giselle Maxwell is a terrible, bad, evil person. You got to take care of her, get after her or whatever.
I think the quote was, everyone knows this guy's creepy, basically. He's like,
everyone knows she's evil or whatever it was. And it's like, wow, like that's kind of interesting. Like, again, I'm still waiting for more information to come out, more files to come out, more revelations and stuff like that. But that development actually made Donald Trump look a lot better. And that's kind of that's probably sending some surprises amongst Democrats who just thought for sure these files were going to get him dead to rights, online.
Which makes his response so much more confusing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like this, and the Department of Justice at this point, Kash Patel just under oath lying to the American people that there's nothing in here that would spark any type of investigation. Like we literally now see the UK as
so if he's not guilty, because he never went to the island, right, and he never did anything with this guy. I mean, he was at a few parties in, let's say, New York or in Palm Beach where he was at the same party. That Trump's never denied that,
right?
Mm-hmm.
But if the files, all these files, as they start to come out and people process them and look at them more, and if Donald Trump looks better off, like didn't have any crimes associated with this, and in fact was trying to alert authorities about how bad these people were, why wouldn't he have been more upfront about that years ago? Why would he be against releasing the files? I mean, do
you have an answer? I still think it doesn't make the only thing that would make sense is if he's protecting people, or
if he's an informant, let's say, for the FBI, and so he was, it's not his spot to come forward. Like he had, that's for the government to do.
That's an interesting theory. I don't, but also the Department of Justice at this point is saying that there's still like 8 million more emails that they're just not going to release, which I guess would also be illegal to admit that kind. It still doesn't make sense, and there's going to be a reckoning on this. I think it's going to be a part of election cycles now, no question, going forward. And I guess we'll see, as you said, more coming out.
And a massive Hollywood industry explosion of AI. AI writes a script for the movie where Donald Trump is the FBI informant. And we have like a blockbuster. This is going to be decades of material for the entertainment industry.
I think it's more important than you think. Here's something to think about, because it kind of reminds me of the AI conversation in certain ways. There is a entire generation of Americans that you're watching the backdoor dealings on like the global financial crisis or the invasion of Libya, the Iraq war, and all of these pedophile elite, not all of them, but certainly many of them in the files, pedophiles, elite pulling the strings behind the scenes. It really has caused like a real nihilism, like an ironic nihilism over people, especially people my age, where it's just like, why engage at all? Everything is a lie. The people that are making the decisions clearly have disgust and disdain for me. And I have no input in these decisions. So, I'm just going to blackpill. And then
I can understand that as a sort of a normal reaction. And that's why all throughout this whole process, I've tried to tell people we do have agency. We can make improvements.
I completely agree.
This is why, as a conservative, I want as much as I can to diffuse power to lower fields of authority. Like I would rather the state of Michigan where I live, we would make decisions. This is what we should, this is how the schools are going to be. No cell phones. We just had that yesterday.
Yeah. If I could round out the point though, what will do so much goodwill for people, I guess, of my generation is justice in this case. And that's why the fighting, the stalling, the lies, all of it it's never going to be fully restituted until we have some form of justice in the case of people going to jail, people losing their jobs. I mean, like Peter Mandelson, such small stakes, yes, he deserved to lose his job. He was doing illegal things behind the scenes and, enjoying a pedophile network and other people like that in American society. Prince Andrew for sure. But that just is the start. And I think as soon as we start seeing, so that's why I think a lot of people have tons of goodwill for Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, because this isn't a sidestep issue. This actually is the whole game for a lot of people in my generation. So throw them a bone. You don't have to, I'm not saying everyone's got to burn and everyone that emailed Jeffrey Epstein is complicit. They're not. But let's go get the complicit ones and treat it like it's a serious thing. And so I think this is a good step in the right direction. I'm not totally blackpilled, but I would like to see some more accountability. I think a lot of people would too. We got to go good news now because I want to hammer JD and Armenia. But Erica, you have good news.
Yeah, we have this is like a timeline cleanse for me because I live on Twitter too much and it was getting a little dark. But I had Andrea Huberwoman. I don't know if that's her real name, but she posted a question. She has a huge following. What happens when a woman is intelligent enough to see the long-term value of being a stay-at-home mom, but too intellectually restless to reduce that role to housework and washing the dishes alone? And among the women on Twitter who are more conservative bent, this blew up. Of course, our good friend Peachy Keenan just said, well, he creates an X account, which is funny. But it was really fun for me as a stay-at-home mom who also works full time.
I would love to hear your perspective on this. Forget all the noise. Yeah. This feels like a question probably in your court.
This is totally in my wheelhouse. This has been my whole life. I've always most of my hours have been spent at home and my brain works way over time. So I'm pretty brain restless for sure. But I think that there's this tendency, all humans do this, to reduce this role in society is going to look like X, right? So stay-at-home moms, they do housework, they care for small children, they play in sandboxes, and that's all that goes on. And I think for really highly educated women or just women who have more interests beyond those activities, it can be intimidating, especially since stay-at-home motherhood is definitely an opt-in choice in our culture at this point. It is not something that just happens to a lot of people anymore. But I loved scrolling through these answers because not to use a liberal buzzword, but you just see the diversity of ways that people actually live out this stay-at-home mom category. And everything from I started an online side business selling honey to I've written 9 books and 2 novels and gotten 2 PhDs in the evenings to in my experience, I fit reading into nap time and then I've learned all these other skills. So it's just been it was a really fun read. Oh, yeah, right. I am the Marco Rubio of the stay-at-home mom community.
And the podcast and the organization. Yeah.
No, but it was really good. I think it would be great for more women. I love Substack for this reason because there are so many stay-at-home moms on Substack who have so many variety of the craziest interests that they dig into and share with that community as well. So this was fun. Look, stay-at-home moms, we're not all the same. by far. Could be a super fulfilling life.
Can I ask you, Erica?
Whiplash.
I'm gonna ask you.
Can't talk.
Because I can only speak for the experience of people on this podcast, but you know, I feel like this
Josh's
conversation really lights for people that are not married yet. So is this conversation like, okay, so who's this for? Because I feel like anyone that's married, they obviously see that, especially in today's unprecedented times or whatever, like a lot of people do have side hustles, and the internet it allows this, and it's a good positive thing. And but it's people that aren't there yet. I feel like either women that are kind of scared that they'll be reduced in some way, like if they become a mother and they stay at home, where like their life's going to be boring or they hate it. And then there's also like the man element where like you do see, if you're single, the dating pool of like really hyper feminized, like I'm never going to be tamed, whatever. I don't want to, birth control, whatever. And then that's hard too for a man. So you're like, I really want a woman that is trad wife, etc. And I'm caricaturizing both sides, but that's what frustrates me. I guess once you reach marriage, you just kind of see things clear because you're there. But this is almost a debate had by people not there yet.
I mean, I think you do, because like you are surrounded by like a lot of really great influences. I think like your mom's awesome and she's like lives a life, and like you have like your wife's family is big Catholic family. But I think a lot of even young married couples who are maybe like in the vocation, you can end up in these silos and like mom groups or like your Instagram community, your online community, which is not real community, like telling you that you need to sit at home and just like focus on this specific domestic art. And if you step outside of whatever your bubble is telling you is the model, that somehow there's something wrong with you, or you're betraying your faith, or you're not being feminine, or what have you. So I think that I don't think it's just for people who haven't yet locked into a marriage. It's also for anyone who's like sitting in this life being like, I am so unhappy, I am frustrated in my mind, or like I can't creatively imagine another way of doing what I'm doing, but something has to change because I'm going to break. So I think that these conversations can also be for people who are in those situations as well. I just said also as well. That was like a double emphatic. I'm feeling very emphatic.
Is it better than Fitz Go Stupid? Someone called me out in the comments for that one. Like, rightfully so. Rightfully so. Josh, your good news.
Okay, so back in December, a judge in San Francisco overturned something that Marco Rubio had done as Secretary of State. He had said it's time for temporary protective status to end for these people from Honduras, Nicaragua, and Nepal. And you're thinking, what, temporary protective status, right? I know, I love this. So we're talking about people that came to the United States from Honduras and Nicaragua after Hurricane Mitch devastated their country in 1998.
Wait.
Temporary. Nepal was added to this
in
2015 after an earthquake rocked their country. This idea, it's like there's nothing more permanent than a temporary program, right? So this judge back in December said, no. How could, this just drives me crazy, because the Democratic presidents have full reign to do whatever they want to. And if Republican presidents try to reverse that, somehow it's unconstitutional. So this San Francisco district judge in December, put the kibosh on ending this temporary protective status. Well, the good news, a little restoration of common sense and rule of law. A 3-district panel for the Ninth Circuit, I believe it was, actually said no. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security, it was DHS, can actually terminate and return these people back to their countries. A 3-judge panel on the Ninth Circuit, which is usually the wackiest of them all, but these 3 judges went ahead and said, no, in fact, we can end this temporary protective status that's been going on for over 25 years.
I am a fan of returning to the rule of law. It's
beautiful.
Sorry,
I mean,
I think you're misinterpreting.
Josh,
you must not understand.
They just want President Trump to just bust through
Josh,
wall
you
that
don't understand the word temporary. You're getting the wrong. Temporary means forever and always. I don't understand where you're getting your weird definition of temporary.
That's what you should tell your special someone on
Yeah,
Valentine's
there
Day.
you go. Yeah.
Temporary.
I would love.
I love you so much that our
temporarily.
relationship will be like temporary protected status. It will be forever. Put it on a
TPS.
card. Okay, good news. Mine, and of course, shout out to the alma mater. I saw this. It's the GOAT, Tom Monahan, Pope Leo, Ave Maria University welcomed in private audience with Pope Leo. Very cool to see. I saw November 26th, so I don't know if I just missed this or they just released it. I'm not sure. But, I mean, come on now. You see this picture with the hat?
Oh,
Shout out. That's a Pinto. I went to school with a couple Pintos. Shout out to the Pinto family. But here's Pope Leo receiving an Ave Maria University snapback, which is just awesome. So we made it. We made it all the way to the Vatican. Shout out Ave
there
Maria.
goes heart.
Shout out Pope Leo. Yeah, dude, it was awesome. I saw that. Tom Monahan, seriously, to live a life like Tom Monahan would.
he wants to die poor.
Seriously.
I heard him say that at a dinner
Yeah,
once.
I guess I'll have that in common with them.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we hit C block. We had some interesting diplomacy. Josh, we were kind of slacking around about this, so I'm curious your 2 cents on all of this. But we have this visit to Armenia and Azerbaijan. Well done write-up. Shout out Elise from Zeal. Covered it all very well. Vance completes 2-day visit to Armenia, signs nuclear deal, visits genocide memorial. So a little bit of the subtext on this. It was the first time a sitting U.S. president or vice president has traveled to the country, period. And the trip was to advance U.S. brokered peace efforts between Armenia and Azerbaijan, finalized a civil nuclear agreement, and included a solemn visit to the Armenian Genocide Memorial in Yerevan. So I'll start out up top. Number 1, the nuclear deal. So February 9th, they signed what is known as the 123 Agreement. The pact allows the U.S. to license nuclear technology and equipment to other countries, including Armenia, according to Reuters. It is reportedly intended to help Armenia replace its Russian-built Metsamor nuclear power plant and reduce reliance on Russian and Iranian energy. Seems pretty solid.
Which would be very good for them.
Seems pretty solid.
Welcome back, Josh.
So number 2, and this was the part where you get a little bit of the international uproar. On February 10th, Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance participated in a wreath-laying ceremony at the Armenian Genocide Memorial, honoring Armenians killed during the 1915 massacres under the Ottoman Empire. And so depending on who you ask, there's different retelling of these events, and that's part of why diplomacy is tricky. The official is the Armenian Genocide from 1915 to 1916 was the mass murder and forced deportation of the Armenian population in the Ottoman Empire during World War I, widely regarded as the first major genocide of the 20th century. The Ottoman government, their main methods were mass arrests, disarmament of Armenian soldiers, widespread deportations of civilians, men, women, and children from Eastern Anatolia to other regions, death marches in the Syrian desert where people were deliberately deprived of food, water, robbed, raped, massacred, left to die from starvation, exposure, or disease. Many women and children were forcibly converted to Islam and absorbed into Muslim households. And death tolls, depending on who you ask, it's going to be anywhere from 600,000 to 1.5 million Armenians killed. And again, Armenians are Christians. So this is like, it basically is
The first Christian nation.
the closest thing we have to like ethnic Christians would be the Armenians.
Well, they're definitely one of the first. Yeah, they are one of the first ones. Not the only one. But that's
Right, not the only one, but yeah, that'd be one way to describe it. So he posted, and here's the tweet, and of course Jake Tapper picked up on it. Thanks, Jake.
Jake.
So here was the original tweet. It said, today, Vice President Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the Armenian Genocide Memorial to honor the victims of the 1915 Armenian Genocide. Here is the video of them doing the wreath-laying. It was quickly deleted, and the White House Rapid Response account also posted and then took it down later.
I didn't know they did that too. Gosh, that's surprising.
Yes.
That is surprising.
So historically, U.S. presidents have avoided using the term genocide for fear of damaging ties with Turkey, a key regional ally. We have a military base in Turkey. Former President Joe Biden broke with that practice in 2021. And I believe then after 2021 kind of reversed course and didn't say anything about it after that. The Trump administration in April 2025 has marked the anniversary of the Armenian genocide. so I'm not going to be able to pronounce the term, but it's just known as the Great Crime or simply the catastrophe, similar in Arabic to the Nakba catastrophe, referring to the displacement of Palestinians in 1948. It's the Armenian term for genocide. So tricky waters because he goes from Armenia to Azerbaijan on February 10th. And then in Azerbaijan, he signed an economic and security partnership with the Azerbaijani president. And they're saying, all good, great. But the state of play currently is there was essentially an ethnic cleansing in the Nagorno-Karabakh region in this Christian settlement by the Azerbaijanis. So they seized full control, displaced 120,000 Armenian residents. They fled. So now currently we have a situation where there are Christian prisoners in that region. Mm-hmm. And so someone asked JD Vance, like, hey, there's Christians around the world that are being persecuted, these people among them. Are you going to talk about it with the Azerbaijani officials? And he said, it's certainly going to come up, citing strong U.S. relationship with both governments. I guess, our former president is now a diplomat, so I don't think the Vatican's involved in that, although they're kind of involved all over the world. Josh, what do you think about all this?
Well, certainly, I agree with the vice president that it was a genocide. It's something that Pope Francis has mentioned before, in 2015. Our U.S. bishops have been very clear about this, mentioning that as many as, 1.2 million Armenian Christians, victims of mass shootings, death marches. The bishops have been clear about that too. So it's not really in dispute. The question is, the prudence of it. And I actually kind of like this, vice president going there to the memorial. Good that he posts on it in social media. Good that it has to get removed for greater diplomatic reasons. It's an unfortunate thing, but you still get a message conveyed, that, we noticed this, we know about this. We're not pretending that we don't. Turkey, of course, not only do we have a military base there and an absolutely strategic position of the world, they're also a NATO country, which always bugs me. I'm going to send my sons to die to protect Turkey? Rather not.
I can name quite a few countries in NATO that I probably would not send my son to die for, but.
Yeah, I've always thought we should do a reset on this, really think about what countries, because, even England, how long before it's a majority Muslim country, why would I send my sons and grands, I don't have any grandsons yet, but I
guess to the point though, that the diplomatic reason would be we're strengthening ties away from Russia. So Russia and Iran. So it is kind of I was thinking about this, is kind of talking about.
Well, you don't want to make enemies, you don't want to rub your face, in Turkey, but you don't want to ignore it either. So it is diplomacy. It is that delicate route.
Yeah. What would the comparison be? Like a diplomat from another country coming in to the Trail of Tears and being they genocided the Native Americans. I stand in solidarity with Chief whatever.
Yeah, except in our country, we love to celebrate our own sins and talk about how
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It is a little akin to with the U.S. Olympians keep getting absolutely grilled on their thoughts on American politics. And in a strange way, it's kind of a reminder of the beauty of our freedom of press, because you don't see people grilling CCP athletes on, say, the Jimmy Lai situation or the Uyghurs.
Yes.
Because they can't.
Especially
They would disappear.
She's a phenomenal skier, gorgeous. But then she decides, even though she's born in the United States, went to the best school, Stanford, all that other kind of stuff.
Trained in the U.S.
Trained in the United States. She's an American, but she decides to wear the flag of the CCP. Wow. Because her mom is from China or something, I guess.
Yeah.
You wonder, and then the NBC gives her such glowing coverage. You have to think there's a little bit of money behind the scenes going on. This doesn't make any sense. It's all propaganda. They show so much about her all the time and glowing coverage. And you're right. Why don't they ask her about Jimmy Lai?
Or the Uyghurs. Yeah.
Nope.
Because she would
disappear.
Let me ask questions about Trump and how embarrassed it is to have a president like this. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Well, the Russians, same thing. The USSR, you can ask them questions about the USSR during the Olympics. They would never. So I guess in some ways, it's nice to have some type of national unity, to express basic American pride, but in another way, I guess it is kind of good confirmation that we do enjoy robust free speech rights in America.
I tell you what,
hard to do it.
I want to try to be as honest as I can about this. Like if there was a U.S. Olympic athlete that said, hey, I don't like America because we abort our children and we have way too much pornography and, we've rejected God. I'd be like, whoa, based. But I'm like, don't say you hate your country because of it. You know what I'm saying? Like you want your country to do better, like, because, and those would be the things that would cause you dismay, but you don't crap on your people, on your own people, on your own country, on your neighbors, on your fellow countrymen. I just don't understand that.
Yeah. Would that be like a violation of like the true virtue of patriotism? Like you can love your country, but
patriotism is a virtue. It is a good thing. We've got, this idea that, part of it is actually kind of what Erica mentioned earlier, is that every city in this country has got the same, 7 restaurants, the same retail clothing outlets, and, and there's a Home Depot everywhere. It's all the same, which there's economies of scale and efficiency and all that kind of stuff. But there used to be a lot more regionalism. Like this is how, we do barbecue, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm Texas barbecue. We have that in Northern Michigan. It's great. I love it. What? It's like, and so you lose a little bit of that local flavor, and actually you're losing accents. Like it's harder to find people that have that accent and have the true
Kentucky drawl. Yeah,
I found them in Minnesota. They're thick, man.
Well, Minnesotans are built different.
Cousins of the Yoopers. Okay, Twilight Zone. Josh, what do you got?
All right. Sorry, give me a second.
Speaking
I got
of
all wound up on
Kentucky.
that stuff. Okay, so speaking of Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, he's called a moderate Democrat. Okay, and
Lord save us.
Yeah, Democratic activists who want to win back the White House, like, hey, here's a guy who's moderate, which is a kind of a joke anyway, because of course the legislature in Kentucky is Republican, and they're not passing crazy legislation all the time. They're passing common sense legislation. So it's not like he's, if Andy Beshear is governor of California, he would have to should I sign this really crazy bill or not? No, in fact, the bills that he gets presented with are, hey, this bill will protect children from gender mutilation surgeries that businesses are trying to push on these kids. And so here he is at The View. I lost you there, Tom.
Yeah.
So here we go. Andy Beshear, the so-called moderate Democrat, on The View, and he decides to invoke religion. But what does he invoke it for? Let's roll the tape.
But we rarely talk about the why. People want to know what drives us, especially in a world with social media where everyone's looking for the next authentic thing. For me, that's my faith. Most of the decisions I make are based on that golden rule that says we love our neighbor as ourselves, and that parable of the Good Samaritan that says everyone is our neighbor. Yeah. And so when I've taken actions like vetoing the nastiest piece of anti-LGBTQ legislation that ever came through my state, I described it in those terms. I said my faith teaches me that all children are children of God. Yeah. And I didn't want people picking on those kids.
Yeah, they're children created by God, and you want big businesses to make billions of dollars by mutilating their genitals. You're a freak, and you would invoke the Bible because in favor of that? Shame on you, Andy Beshear. You are no moderate.
See, he's not Catholic, is he? Christian?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. They're coming on the. Okay.
That's my point.
Like, Josh, wait. I got a question for you.
Kentucky or North Carolina or Texas. They are just as left wing as the people in Hollywood or in New York.
Okay, but Josh, because I almost feel like people aren't even buying it. Maybe they are. Because again, I'm in bubbles or whatever. But with Tallarico and then Beshear now, this kind of like, they're not even like super nuanced or skilled ways to do it. It just seems like such an obvious, here's religion to do whatever policy benefits, is going to ingratiate me to the more extreme parts of the Democratic base. Yes. Why have they always been around, or are they just popping up now, trying it out as a new strategy? Because I feel like that just didn't exist 4 years ago.
Oh, it definitely existed all throughout the 80s and 90s. Even into the 2000s, when the debate on marriage, like, oh, I believe, it's because I'm Christian that I think two dudes should get married. Like, wait, what?
Oh, and like Bill Clinton in the 90s with abortion,
safe.
They would totally use their Christian
safe, legal,
faith.
And rare.
Yeah, safe, legal, and rare, because Jesus said, and it's always been the case.
And then Bill Clinton, very publicly known as a bastion of Christian morality. I mean,
he called his campaign, his platform, the New Covenant.
Did he really? So is this actually just like a return to tradition then of like Democrats trying to just
They
chill
will
out a little
always
bit?
do this. They will wear our values, our beliefs, our cherished principles as a skin suit to try to convince you to vote their way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they want to kill babies, and the ones that survive, they want to mutilate the genitals.
And then can I flip it here briefly? Because I don't know if anyone would say like Donald Trump is like the premier Christian virtue. I think he's been pretty obvious as like in the 80s, like Playboy, right? Like, because that would be the same things. People say, well, Donald Trump's just playing conservatives or pro-lifers or Christians because he's not actually Christian. And, he does all these bad things, but
yeah, so
isn't the whole point at the end is like what happens in policy?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect to bring up. Let us compare Donald Trump, who has had a, licentious lifestyle. That's true. Divorced 3 times, Playboy lifestyle. And is he really cosplaying as a Christian? Or he's like, I don't know if I can get to heaven. What's your favorite thing? 2 Corinthians? I don't know. Like he's just, making stuff up. He doesn't even know what it is. Like, whatever, dude. I don't know.
The prayer breakfast speech was killing me. He's like,
I'm not sure
Mike Johnson, I just want to have lunch, and he has to pray. And I'm like, yes, you can pray, Mike Johnson. Like,
So funny.
He's not really trying to do what Andy Beshear is. He's not invoking Christianity in order to do stuff. He's like, and whereas George W. Bush would be like, hey, I love Jesus. And by the way, this is my lawyer here. You got to put her on the Supreme Court. Like, yeah, no, I'm not taking your judgment on this.
But that's the example you'd use. I'd say $1 trillion war in Iraq, but
well, I mean, George W. Bush would invoke his Christianity and talk about how he, gave up alcohol and gave his life to the Lord. Admirable qualities, and I'm sure he'd make a great neighbor. But the fact of the matter is, he completely swung and missed on marriage. He campaigned hard for it and said he was going to be a defender of it. And then as soon as the election was over, he slammed the door shut on all that stuff. So to me, I hate that. You were swindling us. So George W. Bush was lying to us, just like Andy Beshear is lying to us, invoking your religious faith, your Christian principles, in order to advance a radical agenda, or in George W. Bush's point, raise the white flag and surrender. Either way, the effect is the same. I much prefer, we offered, Christians that were earnest and honest and pious, like people like Rick Santorum, and people like, oh, this guy's horrible, he's a scold. He doesn't want us to have all this crazy stuff and do crazy sexual things. Yay, let's get rid of him. So, here comes Donald Trump. It's like, yeah, I'm not the best Christian, I guess, whatever. But what do you want?
Yeah, right.
What do you stand for? Okay, I'll fight for that. Sure.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
For sure.
It's honest.
Okay.
100%.
He's honest. You tell him that. Erica, what do you got for Twilight Zone?
Speaking of honesty, so last time we brought up some of our favorite Super Bowl ads. The one that freaked me and Tom out the most was the advertisement for Ring, finding your lost puppy dog. It was total psyop to get us to embrace the surveillance state.
Yep.
And we get this, what would this be called? Parody ad. I mean, this was just.
Actually, I think this is for a real company.
Oh, gosh. Wait,
but, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Got psyoped.
We got psyop, but it's
we go.
they have a different solution, obviously. But
Let's go.
This is Milo. Pets are family, but every year 10 million of them go missing. And the ways we look for them haven't changed in years. Except for all of these. But what if we could make finding one lost dog require the computational power of a small, dictator-led nation state? Search Party from Ring uses AI to search through our tens of millions of cameras. We could find literally anyone, but we only use this technology to find lost dogs. Recently, we announced a partnership with over 5,000 law enforcement agencies, but we won't let them use this feature. This feature is just for dogs. Guess what? We've automatically opted your cameras in. Who has time to read settings? Not you. You're too busy being a hero, whether you know it or not. And the best part, it's free for everyone. We're just doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. Customers are loving Search Party, and so will you. Don't these nice images of kids reuniting with their lost dogs feel good? Look at this one. Doesn't that make you feel warm and fuzzy? There's absolutely no reason to go to wise.com and buy a camera with an SD card, because if you own all your own footage, you won't be able to help people find lost puppies. I'd tell you to join the neighborhood, but you're already in it. Search Party, way better than Wisecam, and definitely only for dogs.
I loved that.
Well
so
played.
much. I'm going to go buy one. We actually don't have a Ring camera, but
Well played, Wise.
if I did.
Love this.
Totally.
This ad screen's so funny.
It's just,
too.
I wish people would think through things like this. Like,
Yeah.
my wife, her family started at a Catholic bookstore, and we have cameras outside and inside of the bookstore. And you can, with my phone using the internet, I can see, the parking lot, make sure there's no one crazy there. I can see, oh, there's a customer. I better, help them out or whatever. But like, I would never put that camera inside of my own home.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm giving anyone on the internet the opportunity to see inside my home, not just, criminals or people who would wish to do me or my family harm, but also the federal government. Like, why would I ever want, or any law enforcement agency? It's like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and knock on my door. Thank you very much. If you have something to do, I don't want you peering in on me.
Word. Yeah, I'll donate that one. We ran a little bit late, and that is actually what I had first. So I'll donate that one. Great call, Erica. Great call.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, good show, gang. Episode of The Deep coming for you tomorrow.
Yes, on sports. What went wrong with youth sports? If you've been in travel teams, this is for you. Check it out.
Who killed youth sports? Very fun. And then yesterday we actually did, Erica, you did an interview with Katie Faust, touching the third rail.
Yes.
Someone said already in the chat they're inspired by it. It was very good. So that's up on the YouTube and Spotify. Yes, we are coming for Obergefell. Here's how. The Greater Than Project. Fantastic. Shout out Katie Faust. She is absolute firecracker. And has provided a very unique, I think, approach to the topic, one that I hadn't heard previously to Katie Faust. It was a very unique background herself. So that's all I'll say. I've done 2 interviews with her now. This last one was excellent. So go check that out if you want more LOOPcast. Daily prayer. So yes, if you would like, of course, let me just show this. One of my favorite parts of the program is now that we pray at the end. Thank you to a subscriber who suggested it. But we actually have prayer as an integral part of Zeal, and we have the act of faith that I'm actually just going to pray off now. So if you want beautiful images, if you want the act of faith, we actually have video, really beautiful video with the Norbertines on the Divine Mercy Chaplet and on the Rosary. If you would like that prayer resource, it's actually on Zeal right now, so go check it out. So I'll end with the prayer for today. In Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Oh God, I firmly believe that you are one God in 3 divine persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I believe that your divine Son became man and died for our sins, and that he will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe these and all the truths which the Holy Catholic Church teaches because you have revealed them, who are eternal truth and wisdom, who can neither deceive nor be deceived. In this faith, I intend to live and die. Amen. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Pray for us. Good show, gang. We will see you Thursday for